recording, start the recording. We're gonna start the recording. Oh baby, here we go, another duel replay. It's been so long, I can't wait to play these new decks. Oh, I'm rolling. Oh, well, that's great. What's going on, guys? It's Yugi Bros, and today we have a duel video. Crazy, I know. I don't even know what season we're in. I started ranking these sets as seasons, and I'll be honest, I lost track. We're playing post Streets of Battle City, and I will say, since the cards aren't loaded into Duelingbook yet, we do have to do some finagling, as you're about to see. You draw 5, then you stack the top, you pay 4,000 life points, and you put a token over there representing the skill. I understand there are skills in the custom section, and we can throw them in the extra deck and then play the skill out there, but I'll put both the skills on the screen for you guys now, so you know what we're working with. And basically, every time the skill either activates or whatever, we'll put the counter on it to represent it. But we're playing Eminem and Dr. Dre, and what I mean by that is, for the longest time, for those of you who have watched my channel in the past, I had this deck called Dr. Dre, which was just stood for Dark Red Enchanter. I just wanted to be coy with the name, but basically it was a spell counter deck, kind of focusing around Dark Red Enchanter, and to a lesser extent Breaker the Magical Warrior, and you'd rip cards out of the opponent's hand with Dark Red, and you'd pop their back row with Breaker, and then everything else was just spell cards and draw power. We've upped the ante with the addition of Magical Marionette that they've added through the Streets of Battle City box, and we're also using the new skill, Ultimate Wizardry, which says when you activate it, you place a spell counter on each face-up spellcaster monster you control that you can put a spell counter on, and then once per turn it just has the static effect where during the main phase you can place a spell counter on a face-up spellcaster monster you control. I love this. When I first read this, I was like, I hope all the skills are something interesting like this, and unfortunately they weren't. However, I do think there are a lot of other good skills in this box, but this specifically caught my eye immediately, and I really wanted to screw around with it. So this token right here is going to represent that skill. We're going to start off with Apprentice, Magician, Breaker, Supply Squad, and Allure. Gotta tell you, Supply Squad in this deck is crazy. In general, I feel Supply Squad is a bit underrated in Speed Duels. It never had its time in normal Yu-Gi-Oh! Because about the time it came out, Duelist Alliance came out right after it, sped the game up to an extent that just blew this card out of the water, and this card's never seen a whole lot of play since then. But in Speed Duels, anytime a monster is destroyed by battle or card effect, draw a card, I don't know, seems really good. The benchmark I feel for the current testing grounds for Speed Duel decks is play against the Jiari Gumo.dek, and I understand the list we play for this isn't exactly a direct copy of the Jiari Gumo.dek, but it's more or less got the Jiari Gumo stuff. That deck was crazy for so long, so we've been using that as the benchmark. If the deck isn't as good as or better than the previous Jiari Gumo strategy, it's not worth playing. So, as of right now anyway. So we're playing against that, and their skill obviously is I'm just going to attack. They're going to give Jiari Gumo 100 extra attack points and swing into our monster. Just kidding, they're passing. Understandably so, because if they see Supply Squad and they, I don't know, it's debatable. You could have attacked there, you may not want to attack there, giving me the free advantage. I understand that. We're going to draw Legion of the Fiend Jester. We're going to activate Allure of Darkness, banishing the Legion. We're going to normal Breaker, put a counter on it, as Breaker does. Try to rip the back row. They're going to book a moon the Breaker. It's okay, we traded for the book. Setting Offerings to the Doom to end passing. We can sit, because as long as they don't accumulate the field with multiple monsters, we're just going to get free draws off the things they kill on our field. Unfortunately, they're going to Soul Exchange, which gets around Supply Squad's effect, and of course they hit the Apprentice Magician. Well, they knew Breaker was the other one. And they're going to summon an Evil Hero Malicious Edge. I gotta say, one tribute for 2600. How did we not have Summon Skull sooner? This boy does piercing, guys. Piercing. Unfortunately, they have to pass due to Soul Exchanger's effect, so we're going to draw into another Legion the Fiend Jester. So we're going to flip our Breaker, the Magical Warrior. We're going to set Legion the Fiend Jester, and we're going to pass. They're going to draw into Widespread Ruin, the new artwork, or I guess the original artwork. I don't really know how to say it here. They're going to go to Battle Phase and have Malicious Edge swing into our defense. We're going to take it. It's Legion. We're going to take the damage because it does piercing. They're also going to apply the extra 100 that they forgot to do before the main phase into the battle phase. That's fine. We're going to Supply Squad Chain 1. It has to. It's mandatory. Legion effect Chain 2. Legion adds a normal spellcaster from deck or grave to hand. We're playing Psyche the Dark Clown because unless this box that just came out has something stronger that I just wasn't aware of or didn't pay attention to, this is quote-unquote the strongest dark spellcaster normal monster in speed duels, and the reason we specifically are playing Saggy is because he's dark and we're playing Allure, so we just want the extra synergy there. And then of course we draw the creature swap off the Supply Squad. They're going to have Jiari Gumo swing into Breaker. We're going to Sphere. They're going to flip and call heads. Unfortunately, they do not get heads. So that's going to defense, and they pass. We're going to draw into Wonder Wand. We play this as a one-of because it's decent. It gives extra attack points as well as free draw power. We're going to use our skill, put another counter on Breaker. We're going to then destroy their back row with Breaker's effect. Then we're going to use the once per turn counter, put it back on Breaker, so he's back to 1900. Then we're going to normal Psyche the Dark Clown, activate Offerings to the Doomed on the Jiari Gumo. And then we're going to activate Creature Swap, which is crazy in this deck, by the way. Taking the Malicious Edge before actually just swinging over this thing for exactly 2,000. That's just game. Let's be fair, even if it wasn't, Breaker swings for 1,900, you know, so that's almost game in itself, considering we only have 4,000 life points to work with. They're going to have us go first again. We're going to set Magician of Faith, which we're bluffing is an Apprentice Magician. Magician of Faith is an awkward card in this deck because it's not dark, and there's only so many spells, which we'll show later in the deck profile. The thing with this card, though, is it's really good, obviously, when it goes off. We might actually change it for Crystal Seer. I just wanted another target aside from Old Vindictive for Apprentice Magician, but I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there. They're going to special Cyber Dragon normal Jiari Gumo swing over the Faith before swinging for 2,200 with Jiari Gumo and calling heads. They really should probably call tails the way this has been going for them. So we take 22 and they'll pass. We're going to draw into Legion the Fiend Jester. This card is crazy. For the people that don't know, during the main phase, you can tribute summon a spellcaster in face-up attack position in addition to a normal summoner set. And then it also has the other effect where if it is sent from field to grave, you can add a spellcaster normal monster from deck or grave to the hand. But this allows us to normal summon it, then immediately tribute summon it for Dark Red Enchanter. Now, Enchanter comes out, gets 2 spell counters and 300 attack for each spell counter. But once per turn, you can remove 2 spell counters to rip a card out of the opponent's hand, which we will do after, of course, we activate this Legion and grab our Psyche the Dark Clown. We're going to then use Dark Red's effect, roll a dice to see what we can hit, and we're going to hit the best card in their hand. Then we're going to use our skill, which gives all spellcasters 1 counter, and then we're going to use our other skill, which just puts a spell counter on a spellcaster, pumps Dark Red right back up. Now, the only reason we don't use its effect again, aside from the fact that we wouldn't be able to get either one of these, is that its effect is once per turn to rip from the hand. It's probably for the best. But, you know, it is what it is. The boy is 2,300, which gets over both their field, except for the fact that they tribute for Jinzo before setting Book of Moon, pump it up an extra 100. Yeah, I guess it'll get over regardless. And unfortunately, Dark Red falls to that. We're going to draw into Apprentice Magician. We're going to set that and pass. It's really all we can do. They're going to normal Jiari Gumo. They're going to pump up the Jiari and then go to battle phase, have Jinzo swing over the Apprentice. We're going to trigger its effect, summoning another Apprentice, and instead of attacking, they're actually going to pass. That's probably smart on their part because then we can't get like an Old Vindictive there. We're going to draw into Hammer Shot. This is crazy, by the way. Our normal Breaker, use its effect on the back row, conveniently keep hitting the one of Book of Moon. There's only one in this deck. Well, it contests it, right? So we'll then activate the Hammer Shot, which destroys the monster on the field with the highest attack. Jinzo falls to that, and then we're just going to pass. They top deck probably the best thing in this situation, which is Grand Marg the Rock Monarch. They're going to tribute Jiari Gumo for Grand Marg, use its effect, popping the Apprentice Magician, which will not trigger its effect. Then they're going to go to battle phase and contest the Breaker. And very quickly, all of a sudden, they have the high ground. Well, they did have the high ground. We've drawn Offerings to the Doomed, so we're going to normal Breaker, pump it up by 300 as Breaker does, then Offerings the thing, and swing for exactly 1900. So those two games were really quick. We figured we'd play a best 3 out of 5 with the way those went, so they're actually going to go first this time. Normal summon Jiari and set the all-powerful one of Book of Moon. Too bad we have the all-powerful Breaker the Magical Warrior. We're going to normal that, use this effect, rip the back row. They're going to chain Book of Moon, promptly flipping our Breaker face down. That's fine. We'll activate Creature Swap, take their Jiari Gumo, go to battle phase, and swing Bada Bada. We're going to call heads, and we actually get it. Not that it really mattered. We just don't want them to then tribute the Breaker for something else. But they have Soul Exchange, so it doesn't actually matter. That gets over the thing. They're going to summon Grand Mark and pass. We're going to draw Breaker the Magical Warrior. Sure, we'll pump it up. We'll activate Hammer Shot, get rid of Grand Mark, and swing for 1900. They're going to top deck into Black Brachios. This card's still really, really good. It's going to put our Breaker in defense mode, and they're going to promptly run over it. Before passing back to us, we will draw Magician of Faith. We're going to settle Vindictive and pass. They're going to draw into Jinzo, pump up the Brachios by 100, swing it into our face down. We're going to flip Vindictive. Vindictive will destroy the Brachios, and they're going to pass. We're going to draw into Offerings to the Doomed. We're going to set Magician of Faith and the Offerings in pass. They're going to draw into Jiari Gumo. They're going to normal summon it, give it 100 attack, swing into our monster, and we're going to meet that with an Offerings to the Doomed. They're going to activate their, well, they called heads, and I don't know if the replay actually kept it or not, but either way, it doesn't really matter at this point. We're going to flip Faith, use its effect, add the Offerings back to the hand, and then tribute the Faith for Dark Red Enchanter. Comes out with the 2 counters. We're going to use Dark Red's effect, rip a card out of their hand. You know, just in case they have a Spikaribo, then we're gonna activate our skill, activate our other effect of our skill, set Offerings of the Doomed, and swing for game. So let's talk about the deck. We actually didn't get a chance to show off the Magical Marionette. However, if you saw how well it worked with Dark Red Enchanter, you could probably assume it does the exact same thing with Marionette. However, one key difference is Marionette's not once per turn to destroy a monster. The difference is when you normal summon this, it doesn't actually gain any counters. You're going to have to manually do that. But they both have the effect of if a spell card is activated, they will get spell counters. So that's, you know, always beneficial there. But with the skill, you could summon this, flip it, give it a counter, then use the static effect, giving it another counter to pop a monster if you're in that situation, but you also have spell cards to kind of give it extra counters as well. The list is 30 cards, and while I do understand it's kind of crazy, you could definitely shave it down and not play this many, but I feel like the deck works anyways. So let's go through the list. It's 1 Psychic Dark Clown, 3 Magical Marionette, 3 Dark Red Enchanter, 3 Breaker the Magical Warrior. These are your pieces. This destroys monsters, this rips cards out of the hand, this destroys spell traps. With all 3 of them, the opponent really can't contest this stuff too much. We're playing 3 Legion the Fiend Jester because you can normal summon this and then immediately tribute summon it for either one of these. That's why we're maxing out. 3 Apprentice Magician. This does say when it's summoned, you target a monster, you can put a spell counter on, put a spell counter on it, and if it dies by battle, you can special summon a level 2 or lower spellcaster from your deck face down. What's nice about that is it can just summon itself, but you can also summon cards like Old Vindictive, which flips destroys a monster, or Magician of Faith, which flips targets a spell in the grave and adds it back to your hand. 3 Spikaribo, because we are playing no trap cards and no ways to stop our opponent aside from the 1 Offerings, but this also works with the lure very well. 2 Supply Squad. When this card goes off, it goes off, and if you open this and Apprentice, let me tell you, going first, the best opening in the world. If they run over the Apprentice, you're getting so much advantage, either in another one, this or this, and your draw off of squad, it's so good, guys, it's so good. 2 Allure of Darkness, because it is at 2. 2 Creature Swap. This card is crazy in this deck. Nothing is super high in attack points, so obviously we could just give them cards like Apprentice Magician, take their monster, have their monster run over the Apprentice, Apprentice sets up from there, but you know how this works. 1 Wonder Wand as a kind of a flex spot. Extra free draws are nice, it's an easy side out as well, and then the 1 of Offerings to the Doom due to the ban list. In the side we have 2 Hammer Shot, because as I said, everything in this deck is pretty weak, which is a benefit for us. 1 Soul Exchange. We do have the ability to tribute summon through, you know, 6 monsters in our deck. One Galaxy Cyclone. I feel like this is just good. I understand we have Breaker, but sometimes you're going to need that extra effect. Same for the Twister being in here as well. Having a quick play out to their spell and traps versus the static ones is, you know, sometimes really good. And then, of course, the ever-prevalent one Lost Wind. This is just kind of your free spot that's just good against a lot of things. Guys, let me know what you thought in the comments down below with this idea. I didn't expect to go spell counter route so early, but I just love that skill. Ultimate Wizardry is so cool. Facilitates a lot. Before we were playing Eradicating Aerosol in this deck along with Hidden Parasite as the one nuke card, but now we have a nuke card, and now we can play the skill that gives everything else extra counters. Breaker, by the way, is always a 2-for-1. Breaker's not once per turn either, so if you bring this out, it gets a counter, hit the back row, then you give it the once per turn effect, hit another back row, or if you haven't flipped the skill yet, you can essentially a Breaker pop all 3 cards, assuming they're not reactive, like Book and flip this boy face down. It's just crazy to say, you know? But yeah, let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
For more amazing Speed Duel content, subscribe to Yugi Bros. It's time to duel!